Everyone, this is Faye from Face World Media. I'm here with a lovely Eden Liu from Camo. And Eden is the customer relationship. I see you as a brand ambassador, basically. And, you're on the
Basically.
Camo channel. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know what Camo is, I actually purposely didn't set it up on my end so you can see the big difference between kind of my video just right through Logitech versus Eden's. And that is fully controlled, and Eden's going to really demonstrate a lot of the features. So I think if you guys are anybody watching here today, author, entrepreneur, creator, and frankly, also like if you're running webinars, you're moderating large
Yes.
sessions, Zoom webinar or like fancy hop in, who below, whatever it may be, definitely this is the session for you. And Eden's going to demonstrate some new features as well. So we got people hopping in already, and this is fantastic. We're doing a pair streaming between Face World and Camel. And really appreciate that you are here today. Please leave us any questions, and Eden, feel free to moderate with me whatever questions you want to ask your audience as well.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me, Faye. I'm really excited to come on your show. You just came on my show not too long ago, even though the episode hasn't been released yet, but it's on the way. The game plan is being ironed out as we speak. But yeah, as Faye said, Camo is a great tool for anyone that is on video. That's whether you're live streaming, whether you're just doing a lot of videos, calls on Zoom, or whether it's like just if you're creating content, Camo isn't just for streaming. It's not just for video calls. It also can record video. So it's basically anything content video related. Camo is here to facilitate that. Like I have so many like cool ways to like suggest for people to use Camo, even if they have awesome setups. So I will let Faye lead the conversation, but I'm just so excited to be here with Faye today.
Oh, if I could be in New York right now, we're probably, grabbing tea, coffee somewhere and be chatting about how to leverage, guys, your phone to be this ultimate webcam. I wish I knew this. I mean, I think a lot of people wish they knew, especially, going into the beginning of the pandemic. Because you remember, Eden, how rare it was, how difficult it was to find a webcam anywhere.
Yes. They were sold out entirely in 2022 in March, April. You could not find a webcam for like at least 3 months. And that is actually sort of Camo's origin story was during the pandemic when webcams were about as scarce as water in a video game or something. And our guys came up with the idea, like, we have these awesome, amazing cameras in our pockets. Everyone has a really amazing camera on their phone, whether it's iPhone or Android. Like these people at Apple, at Samsung, they put so much R&D into that camera and being able to shoot beautiful photos and shoot amazing video using your phone. So it was like, the idea was just like, why can't we use it as a webcam? Like, why are we limited to only shooting on our phone? And I don't know, I'm not a developer, but our genius development team, made it happen. And that is Camo's origin story, is we wanted to facilitate better video for everyone.
It's fantastic. And Camel's origin story is something I have to thank my producer, Herman, once again, who's actually one of the paintings for those of you
Oh, nice.
blue background. And Herman literally recommended Camel to say, you got to check this out because as we're both live streamers, and to be able to control the orientation, to use the front and the back of your phone. And one situation that I ran into was I'm also a moderator for these virtual events as a strategist, trainer, moderator. I love everything from Elgato, but the green screen's width is literally this much. It was just not wide
That's
enough
right. Yeah.
right, my Zoom window. Like it's not like traditional green screens are not designed to be 16:9. And I ran into this issue last minute, and Camo was such a savior for me to basically be able to zoom in and out through a simple control to facilitate that session in front of 5,000 people. So that was fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I was kind of going to ask, I was like, if this was already into your sort of webinar training and Zoom training, because you are such like a Zoom whiz. I've watched your YouTube videos, and I still sometimes when it comes to being in Zoom, I'm like, oh, they did that really cool thing. Do I want to try it in this meeting? But no, I totally know what you mean. It's a great tool, especially for Zoom. That's actually our like starting out, that was our like marketing push, was to help you elevate your Zoom calls. And just like you said, that zoom and pan feature that we have is so useful. I joke that because I eat lunch in my office, I leave like half a sandwich behind me sometimes, and I don't realize that I don't have it cropped out. But using Camo, I can just like slide that zoom bar in a little bit and pan up so that you don't see my leftover lunch in a meeting.
Exactly, and it's like it's so subtle, yet something about I have this kind of admiration towards like British design and software company, and Camel's one of them. It just works, and I'm first of all, I'm not paid to even say this, but the user interface is so intuitive, and maybe Eden at one point something you can demonstrate. Do you think we should do that now or a little later?
Sure. Yeah, we can
Okay.
go ahead and do a little demoing now.
Okay. Look at how good Eden looks with her background and how smooth the transitions are.
Yeah, so
But
this is the Camo
Mhm.
interface. You can hide these as needed, so you can see more of yourself, or if you need to see more of your adjustments. We have people that don't know that you can actually hide these, then only need like one feature, and they're like, how do you get it to
Mm,
go away? But basically, we have all of these settings on the right-hand side that are your basic camera lighting and image adjustments. You have your white balance. You can shift it to be warmer or cooler. I like to be right in the middle a little bit. Brightness, saturation, contrast. I have it set perfectly so that it makes my hair look really shiny and also really dark and black. So you can really fine tune your image to make it look exactly how you want. That's the video superpower that we say is Camo. But it's not just the adjustments. The zoom and pan, also super useful tool. Like I said, if I happen to leave some of my lunch in the background, I could just easily zoom and pan so you can't see it. But I
mm.
have my setup framed perfectly today.
Well, look at that. I didn't know there's a little touchpad thing, the gray bar in the lower left-hand corner. I had no idea you can actually reposition the framing of your video.
Yeah.
I did not know this.
No, that's also, I will say, we don't have a huge video library showcasing all of the ways to maximize Camo, which is something we are working on. We can do a lot better at presenting these features to you guys. So that is on our to-do list. But in the meantime, that's why I make appearances like this. So I can sort of like walk people through all of the coolest like features of Camo.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'll just go ahead and walk through a few of the other features, if that's
Sure.
cool.
Yeah,
Just like,
absolutely.
yeah. So, like Faye said earlier, you can use all the lenses on your phone. I go selfie lens. I have mine pointing towards a BTS photo card. I love like going ultra wide to be able to show off more of my setup if
Wow.
it was cleaner, obviously. But telephoto also, it's going to get really up close and personal. But this could be useful if you had like a dermatologist appointment. They can see every single pore.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so that gives you a lot of versatility in your different camera angles. You can show as much or as little of your setup as you want. Camo is also really great as a secondary shot. I love to say for people that do have the professional DSLR mirrorless setups, if you have a top-down shot, a little iPhone is much easier to mount than a full camera setup. And yeah, you have all these resolution options. Of course, we want to keep it at 1080 because we like to look nice and sharp here in Camo.
Mhm.
Um, and also, one of my favorite undersold features, which really plays towards your sort of like Zoom webinar
Mhm.
audience, is our overlays. So we created this overlay gallery that we have like sort of
Mhm.
um, built-in overlays for you to use, but you can also import your own. And my favorite thing about that is that you can set up keyboard shortcuts to switch between them easily. So like I just imported these in here today. Like I'm not using anything else other than keyboard shortcuts
Mm.
to run this sort of mini slideshow, which I think is just one of our most undersold, really, really cool, really useful features if you're in a meeting
Mm.
and want to like stunt for the bosses a little bit and be like, look, I have actually like slides and you didn't want to do a full PowerPoint or keynote. You can just use Camo, switch between them
Mm.
using keyboard shortcuts. And yeah, that's sort of the just rundown of most of the general Camo features. But if there's any specific use cases that anyone wants to know about, feel free to ask and I'm happy to elaborate.
Awesome. I love the demo. Thank you so much, Eden. And for anybody who's watching right now or later, feel free to leave us comments. I do monitor my comments on YouTube. And yeah, Eden, show me one more time how you place the overlay again. Which button was that?
Sure. So the overlays are in the left control panel right near the middle. If you open up the gallery, it sort of gives you a preview of what each one is going to look like. So as you guys can see, I have, wait, can you guys see the overlay window right now?
Overlay window. I can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's supposed to have a pop-up window with an overlay gallery that I'm looking at in Camo, but I guess something with the screen share isn't letting me show it.
I see. You might have
Yeah.
to do like an add source thing towards the bottom, and so
See.
you can do a screen share, you can do an add source to drop a new window there if you want to. But
sorry.
That's okay. No worries.
There we go. This is the overlay gallery and what it
Ooh.
looks like. So these, you just favorite them and it'll assign a keyboard shortcut number to them. And that's how you can switch between them using keyboard shortcuts. It's control like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is what I have mine set up to be because it's easy that way.
Wow, very cool. So I know that I remember being able to use Camo for free for a long time. Could we talk a bit about pricing? And pricing is kind of hard to find on a Camo site, which I love, by the way. So tell us
sorry about
different
that.
options. Yay.
So we have a few different pricing options. So I'll talk about the free version first of all. The free version actually is already enough to give people a pretty big upgrade in camera quality. It only lets you go up to 720p, but if you are using like Zoom a lot of the time, Zoom compresses your quality anyway. So even just using your iPhone camera at 720, you'll see a major upgrade between the built-in webcam versus using your iPhone. So that is free. The free version also comes with all of our AR modes, which I will just like switch between a few. We partnered with Snap last year to create these sort of, these different lenses. You can, I think this is like really good for like raising your hand in Zoom. We have like a invisible filter, which if you don't want to be on screen during your Zoom call.
My God. How did you turn those on?
It's just in the modes, and these are all available in the free version. Yeah, all of we really had kind of fun with these.
That's amazing. I can't believe I haven't explored these yet.
I'm a big fan of this one. It's nice and subtle, but
yeah,
it's still pretty cool. But yeah, so all of these are available in the free version. For Camo, take off the watermark also in the free version, which a lot of people don't know. It's just, I think people don't know that you have to try to take off the watermark. They just assume you can't. But yeah, in the free version, you're just able to take off the watermark. We wanted it to be widely usable even for free. So that's the free version. And then the pro version gives you all of the cool features that you just saw. And we have a monthly subscription option, which is $4.99 a month. Yearly for $39.99 a month, or a lifetime subscription for $79.99 a month. So that's our pricing options. And if you think about it, a webcam is going to cost you at least a good webcam is going to cost you at least $150 to $200. So $80 is you can unlock the power of your webcam, get all the cool adjustments, and also get all of the new features we add without any additional cost for life.
Whoa. That's amazing. All right, we got a first question. I'm hearing iPhone a lot. Is Campbell compatible with other Android devices?
Yes. So we are compatible with Android. We just sort of put our Android into a public open beta last fall. I will be perfectly honest with you guys. We don't have as many features for Android as we do with iPhone. Like we don't have the AR modes yet. We don't have portrait mode yet, but it is available and it is for free right now on the Google Play Store while it's in beta. So please go check it out. It's free to try for Android users. So my best recommendation is to just give it a try. And I actually have one of my friends, Ella Glasgow of Beyond Virtual Events. She prefers using her Android camera because she likes the way the Pixel color palette looks compared to the iPhone. And she's used both and she's like sorry, I know you guys are team iPhone, but I like the Android better. And I'm like, you know, whatever works. Different people have different preferences. And that's why we wanted to expand to Android and Windows, is so more people can unlock the power of their smartphone cameras.
Yeah, I love that. And it's true. Sometimes people say the same thing about like OBS. Windows version has all these gadgets and features and bells and whistles, and the Mac version is very minimum, which I like so much better because
Yeah.
I just need three things. Like, don't
Right,
distract
right.
me with anything else. Yeah, so I would love to explore. It's so funny. Like by the way, I'm, obviously very interested in talking to you about your origin stories. And, but before we go there just yet, you're clear, you're a young person living in New York, and you're, the face to a brand, and there's just so much excitement to that. And I think your career probably can be very compelling to some of the other people, like I think in their 20s, in their early 30s, and beyond. I gotta say, I'm pretty envious of that myself. But just curious, like in your tenure at Camel, what have you seen as like the primary audience, like people who are really crazy about Camel? Like I assume creators, like podcasters, live streamers, gamers. What have you seen so far as trends of your
Yeah,
audience?
so it's actually been really interesting. So I started at Camo last summer. So we're coming up on my 1 year anniversary in like a couple of months. So in the beginning, I will say I feel like mostly it was a lot of people that were using it for Zoom calls, a lot of people teaching over Zoom. I will say teachers was one of the user bases that first really stood out to me. And when I say teachers, I mean everything from teachers that do art, to yoga teachers, to math teachers, to science teachers, just your everyday elementary school classroom teachers, to college professors, to, like I said, these sort of niche art, yoga, fitness teachers. That is like a huge part of our user base, which if you think about it, like with the timing of the pandemic, when things basically all had to go virtual, it makes sense because that's when everything had to shift to online instead of in person. And those are the people that sort of didn't really have a choice when it comes to continuing their career. So yeah, a lot of teachers, but recently we've been seeing a lot more like people that do content creation, live streaming and video content, because we are an app that facilitates creating video. So yeah, it's been really interesting to see the shift. And as our user base kind of shift, like so do like our features that we sort of plan for. So it's been really cool to see it happen from the inside instead of being like looking at a product from the consumer point of view. So
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of fascinating because I think a lot of people who are in touch with me because of Face World Media also happen to be creative entrepreneurs. And I know that's a pretty broad spectrum of people: podcasters, YouTubers, writers, and solopreneurs. And how do you envision people who are, I guess, kind of new to this or have some doubts, questions of like, oh, what if this breaks? Or, like I think some people are thinking about, I have so much to focus on for Zoom. And what would you say to that crowd to kind of try Camel for the first time? What are some of the best practice and kind of dip their toes in and just to see whether this is right for them or not?
well, first, I'd like to say we do have that monthly option for people that aren't sure if they want to commit. And it's $5 a month to try. And, we have a 30-day money back guarantee. So even if you spent the $5 and you weren't happy with Camo, we'll be happy to process that refund for you, because we want everyone to be happy with the product. But for people that aren't sure if this is, a road that they want to go down, I really honestly, because I fell into content creation in my podcasting, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. And it is like the Nike logo. Just do it. Like I grew up, I played sports. I know you did too. So it's like, I'm a big like sports mentality kind of person. And I know it's super cliche, but honestly, it's just do it. Get in front of the camera. Even if you are, God, it was Doc Rock that's been saying this recently. He's saying just get in front of the camera, even if it's your phone selfie cam, and just like record yourself saying a few sentences about how your day went, to get used to seeing yourself and listening to yourself on video. You do get used to it. Everyone hates the sound of their voice, but you don't have to get hung up on that. You can get used to your voice.
Yeah.
I always thought I had like the most awkward sounding voice. It's not very girly, but it's not girly either. It's like this very like, you know how like some girls have this really cute tone to their voice. That isn't me. Like that's just not what I sound like. And I was
Yeah.
really self-conscious about that because I don't know why, because people are self-conscious about their voices also because, you know, I think the voice
Mhm.
that we hear when we talk is different than when we hear a recorded version of our same vocals. But
Mhm.
I'm really lucky to have my podcast producer that really was just like, dude, I love your voice. Like you
Mhm.
need to stop overthinking it. Just here are some sentences. Please read them for me so I can use them for a voiceover. And so I just fell into it. I got used to listening to the sound of my own voice and now I love it. And
Yeah.
I wasn't always comfortable on camera to begin with, but
Mhm.
after a few live podcast performances and when the podcast went virtual because of the pandemic also, we had to cancel one of our big live events. We went virtual for it and you just get used to it. So that's
Mhm.
why I'm going with the Nike, just do it. You're not going to be great your first 2, 3, 4, maybe 10
Mhm.
takes, but like you will get better at it. It's all about reps. And that might
Mhm.
be, like I said, a little jock sort of cliche, but it's true. And like honestly, every creator that I've spoken to has kind of echoed that. It's all about reps.
I actually really like the message that you're sending out here because whenever we post something in, I think there's like the Asian Hustle Network or like Creator Network or Podcast Movement. Whenever we share like what are something that you're struggling with, and I always expect people to say something specific, like technical or something they're struggling with. It's always ends up to be like I don't know how to start, where to start, what if my ideas don't work, and what if I don't like my voice, don't like the way I look on camera, all these things. And then I think this is where when you find the right coach and the right someone like a strategist or consultant can really push you through, because I know I've done that a lot for my clients.
Yeah,
And once you are, yeah, it's absolutely true. Once you get over that hurdle, that you just, you actually are not afraid anymore. And also, like once you've done it once or twice, you get addicted, you started to really enjoy the creation
totally.
process. I love the transition, by the way. And for people, by the way, thinking about like our background, I want to show you like we literally right now it is just Eden and me, and we just have, I'm just like clicking on these things and it looks kind of magical. This is
They're
all through Restream.
fun. Yeah.
It's so fun, and it's just us. We don't need a co-host. We don't need some fancy team to be supporting us. And yes, of course, I could add all these things, add all these people, but I just chose not to. Like that, I don't want anything to come in the way as an excuse to not be able to do this. It's too expensive. That person's not available. I don't want to learn this myself. Like remove the excuses and enjoy the process. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Eden, let me ask you, let's talk about your podcast. First of all, you mentioned it went viral, interesting life events. Like what tell us about your podcast.
Sure. So I used to basically be on a basketball podcast. It was called the Athletic NBA Show. Actually, previously before that, it was used to be on ESPN, is the True Hoop podcast, and then it was the Basketball Analogy. I came on at the very end, tail end of that, and then we moved to the Athletic. So basically, the podcast was sports. The show was called the NBA Daily Ding, which is still running right now. I'm not
Mhm.
on it anymore because it requires a little bit more time and effort to still be able to do. But like I come from a sports background and it's basketball stats, basketball analysis, and also lifestyle and how sort of basketball was like sort of the glue that held the group of people together for the lifestyle podcast is like that was like our common interest, but we'd also like take listener questions and just talk about culture and
Mm,
and life and how kind of sports kind of plays into it for all of us. Um, I will say it was a experience that I totally fell into, and the podcast shows. So, like, just for example, me coming on Faye's podcast, and when Faye came on my show, we were sending each other topics that we were going to
mhm,
cover at least, and general rundown. What are we going to talk about,
mhm.
etc. There was none of that for this basketball show. It was very like, hey, we're just going to get 5 or 6 of you guys on a call together, and the conversation will run itself.
Super
And
organic.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, I really learned sort of like things like timing and listening to be able to pick up other points from what people were saying. Like I really learned it all on the fly. I came from a events background. Like I produced events in New Orleans for 10 years and fell into podcasting and ended up doing that for 5 years. I still love it. Like I still do the Friday mailbag show with my old podcast crew just because it's like a fun show that I don't have to do very much prep for. It's called the mailbag. So we just kind of take listener questions. But I just learned so much from that experience. And there's a lot to be said about being very prepared, but I think sometimes through the experiences where the people that you're working with aren't that organized, you can also learn a lot
Oh,
about
I
both
like that.
yourself and about like the podcasting process.
So counterintuitive. I think we need to break down some of the things because I think whenever we're in an organizational situation or creative endeavor, we do want to line up certainly. We want to feel ready, but ultimately, you're right. And sometimes the more spontaneous conversations are more compelling. And sometimes even no matter how prepared and how good of a job you've done, it might still not go, might not go sideways, but it might still disappoint you in some ways. So you said something like 2 minutes ago, I think, of basically paying attention, listening, and picking out keywords or things
Talking
like
points from
nuggets that
other
could be
people.
interesting. How
Yeah.
do you do that? How do you do that for a live show versus like an interview like this?
I honestly active listening.
Mhm.
Like a lot of the times I feel like people come on podcasts or interviews and they have points that they are ready to give. They have takes. They're ready to shoot off all of these points, all of these stats, all of
Mm,
these,
mm.
very poignant points.
Call to actions.
Yeah, call to actions. They're all ready to go. But I think what makes for a really good podcast conversation or just in-person conversation, whether it's being recorded or not, is really, really paying attention to what the other person is saying and responding to that instead of like, I know it's actually sort of a flaw of mine as a podcast host sometimes is I can get caught up in wanting to
Mhm.
stick to the rundown. But
Yeah.
something that I've been trying to let go of is not sticking to the rundown, and whatever my guest says, I will
Mm,
really try to make it a point to keep that talking point going because it feels more organic. It's not as planned.
mhm,
It's not scripted. And I think that comes through in
mhm.
like from the viewer's point of view. It's like it doesn't feel like it's just one person asking a question and another person answering them. It feels
Yeah.
like a free-flowing conversation, and that's more relatable because those are the conversations we have in real life.
Yeah, for sure. So, like just now you mentioned New Orleans and you were an event planner organizer for 10 years. Is that where you grew up or could you tell us maybe about your origin stories?
Sure. So I actually grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was born in North Carolina, Duke Hospital, so I'm a big Duke fan. But I moved to Arkansas when I was 2 because my dad got a job at the med school there. Super cliche Asian thing, I know, right? Dad got a job at the med school, so we moved somewhere in the Midwest. But yeah, so I
Yeah.
grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. Very immigrant parents, and not around a lot of Asians at all. So now living in New York, it's actually like sort of a culture shock because I have like
Mm.
so many more cultures around me. But yeah, so I grew up in Arkansas and then I went to school in New Orleans and then just stayed there for a decade after graduating. Yeah, a lot of events in New Orleans, a lot of fun. It's a great city for your 20s, but at some point it was time to sort of grow out of that phase of my life.
Oh my God. I feel so embarrassed. I just assume you're like 24, 25, and I realize as you're describing it, I'm a little bit off. That's why I was
I
like,
wish I was 24, 25.
oh my goodness, how could I be so wrong about this? But I was like, why don't you talk about your career to other people in their mid 20s? So yeah, I should probably double check it. That's a definitely a good thing, for sure. But how do you? I was wondering, like, how you're able to kind of pivot your careers because I know that every job has many dimensions and many responsibilities, but from the outside, we can see you as basically a YouTuber. You're on Camel's website, like I mentioned earlier. I love how streamlined it is. You get the points through. Frankly, it's like an example I've been using for like a new product I'm developing. And it's like, oh, that's so clear. I love the workflow of it. I have another
Aw.
friend who designed this video editing tool called Recut. So
Yeah, that's the
get
one I was watching earlier today.
Oh my God, it's Get Recut. Same, very
Yeah.
similar approach. Like, guys, if you're developing, thinking about products or courses or whatever software in general, definitely check out Camel's website for sure. But yeah, you're on the website, you're creating videos, you're doing this with me. And do you think this career is designable? I mean, if people want to do something like this, what's the best approach? I don't know. Like, is there an answer to that?
My answer would be if you want, so just like Faye said, I fall into this sort of purgatory between content creator and working for a brand, because to be honest, my job is to create content to represent a brand. So it's a little different than me going rogue if I wanted to create content myself. But I will say there's less financial pressure. So I really enjoy doing this for Camo because I get to bring in all of my random crazy ideas to Camo and to see if this is something that we want to explore for our content. And that really, like, knowing that I have a team to sort of to cater that content to helps me drive the creative process a little bit. So I will say though, a lot of my ideas and the work that I do is very heavily influenced by my past experiences doing podcasting, sports podcasting more specifically, because it is very like I got comfortable doing live streaming and more on the fly, less prepared things from covering basketball games. For the NBA Daily Ding, we would watch a whole nights of basketball. We'd have 15 minutes from the time the last game ended to prep for the show. So it was very much like, just taking notes as I go and then come up with cohesive talking points without really that much prep time. So I really attribute all of my podcasting experience to get me to where I am today. So I would say if someone is looking for sort of to work for a company and get to create content for them, do content on the side, even if you, with the job that you have now, because creating content, like, there's no excuse. There's so many tools out there, Camo, all of these other tools that you can use that are low cost and easy and intuitive to use. Like, get on YouTube tutorials if you don't know how to use OBS or Ecamm. Like, there's all these resources out there. Like, even if it's not your job right now, start to build up a content library. Like, I got hired at this job because of my podcasting experience and because I'm comfortable being on camera. Like, that is, I mean, I don't know if my bosses will admit that, but I'm pretty sure that's why I got the job.
Very true.
We just always say, like, because basically the team is mostly developers and my CS team. And every time I'm doing a video, we drop it in the team Slack and everyone's like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah, but I would never be able to do that. And I'm like, that's why you guys hired me.
That's such a good point. So for people who are watching, in case that you haven't started a channel or you're halfway through your podcast, or you're thinking, oh, is this thing even working? I started podcasting 8 years ago, YouTube since 2019. I gotta say, in the past few months, every single business lead, just like, Eden said, they all came through, first of all, through my website. But I know it's not because of my website. I know it says decent traffic, but I don't, rank high for every single keyword, and certainly not for Zoom necessarily, maybe just a few blog posts. But the idea of creating your own content inventory, a content library, it's so huge, because all of them came in and said, yeah, I watched one of your videos on YouTube. And that's how people find you. So I'm sure not all the videos are necessarily the ones I'm proud of or high production quality. That really doesn't matter. So creating something, and I think, like, sometimes we ask ourselves to be pro, to be expert so soon, treating yourself as a new learner is very liberating, actually. Like Eden said, audio, video content, spontaneous live streaming stuff. You just present yourself. People can click away if they don't want to watch it. But the people who do find your content resonating, I mean, you're welcoming and infinite amount of opportunities from, for me, for Eden, sponsorships, new employment opportunities, consulting gigs, and they just keep popping up and you can choose from them. So it's really liberating.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to add on a little point to that I thought of as you were talking about starting out creating content, how some of the videos that you create might not have been your proudest work, but someone found it and found value in it. And that's how they ended up hiring you. It's also like, I think that there's so much value in, like, providing value for one, but also like not getting stuck in a lane that you want to provide value for. So just using you, for example, Faye, like,
Mm.
you know, you don't just do the Zoom stuff. It's like
Mhm.
you do the Zoom stuff and you have like your podcast and you do YouTube strategy. And
Mhm.
I'm not sure exactly. I mean, all of it's seems aligned to us, but like you started out with one, right?
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
started to branch out because you realized a lot of the techniques were probably applicable like across the field.
Mhm.
And so that's like just another thing that I want people to think about, especially if they're just starting out, is like there's so much talk about like finding your niche, like, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
cater to your niche, but it's like your niche doesn't have to stay the same, first of all. So like
right.
whatever you start out thinking that you want to be your niche, maybe you start doing it for a month and then you turns out you actually like you're not that into that niche. Like it's
Yeah.
okay to pivot. It's okay to branch out and make
Mhm.
videos, create content around other topics. Like it's okay. I think people think that they have to stay really focused in
Mhm.
order to be successful as a content creator, but
Mhm.
I really think that it's really okay to do exploring and just trying different things until you find what you really love.
For
And like,
sure.
I know that kind of sounds cliche, but yeah, it
It
is
it
about like
is though.
trying different things.
I
Yeah.
think like yeah, absolutely. It's as if back in our college days, and especially, I went to college right around, I graduated around '06. So back then, and unfortunately still today, as I'm surprised to find out, is all these kids are, sometimes like 15, 16 years old, 17, you have to decide your major. And that's something you need to focus on. You'll find a
Yeah.
career following that major. And it kind of doesn't make sense whether you're 17, 27, or sometimes even 37, you're starting your first gig. So I think everybody's different. So Eden and I are different people. For me, I kind of like to get my hands in 3 to 5 things. Now, some people really like two things. Like, oh, I don't want just the one thing, but I need about two things. And I got, some people have family, they have their obligations, but everyone is slightly different. It's okay to pursue multiple tracks. And it's also very important to respect your own boundaries and just take care of your mental health, avoid burnout at the same time. I actually think focus on a few more things as opposed to, putting all your eggs in this one basket and
Totally.
waiting for it to be successful. That is so financially and mentally, I don't know, very draining and very stressful.
Very
So,
limiting.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Eden, you talk about sports a lot. I didn't even ask, which sport did you actually do growing up or in school?
All right. So let me run through the list.
Oh, God.
I played basketball, obviously, because I'm obsessed with basketball. Basketball is my first love forever. I still go shoot around today.
Oh, no. Goes
My
well with the
pickup
podcast.
my pickup days are behind me, but I'll still go put up shots.
Mhm.
I figure skated, and I know you played
Oh,
hockey, so
yeah.
yeah. So one of these days we'll have to meet on the rink and do some skate offs or something. But
Oh, figure skating is hardcore. I mean, just the amount of bruising and practice that go into these competitions, I don't think can truly imagine it. It's not just your job, it's your parents' job. Like whether you go pro or not, it just wow, that's some serious dedication.
oh my god, totally! It was such a contention point when I told my parents I wanted to try out for the basketball team because they were like, "You're already doing figure
Yeah.
skating 5 days a week. Where are you going to fit basketball?" And I was like, well, they have 7 a.m. practices open at the rink. So I could do that before school, then do basketball after school.
Yeah.
um,
Are you
yeah.
like 7 feet tall? I know that's a real cliche question, right?
No, I'm actually I'm tall for an Asian though, I will say. So I am like a tall 5'6". Throughout my
Mm.
basketball playing career, I thought I was 5'8", but turns out I was just padding stats like they always do on rosters. Cause I got measured at some point in college and they're like, nah, you're very close to 5'7", but technically you're 5'6".
Eh,
So
all good. If you don't mind me asking, where were your parents from originally? Which part of China?
well, so my dad's part of the family is from the Guangzhou area
Yeah.
of China. My mom is Taiwan native though.
Okay.
So yeah, so my parents actually um they met in Taiwan. That's where they got married, and then they
Mhm.
came here in their mid to late 20s. So
Mm.
yeah, so Taiwanese American. Although if you ask my dad, I'm Chinese American. They like to get really technical with where my roots are, but I'm just like, you guys are from Taiwan, so I'm gonna call myself Taiwanese American. I know our family's from the mainland also, but like,
Yeah, you gotta pick one.
yeah.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is I think it's so interesting. I've been here. I wasn't born and raised here like Eden, but I've been here for 22 years and counting. And I noticed, like, it's so funny. My dad was Cantonese. He passed away 12 years ago, but Canton area. My mom is Mandarin, so from the Beijing area. And people don't realize that there are a lot of really big people in northern part of China, because a lot of people here. I'm 5'4", and I've always been the smallest kid in my class since I know I'm not tiny,
Yeah,
but
I was like, that's
I've
not
been
even that
small.
short. Yeah.
First row, okay? Like, since 6th grade all the way through 10th, 11th grade until I came here, and there was a lot of contention there too, right? There's could be some bullying. I was like, just because it's so easy, like, I
Right.
was, like, the smallest kid. People don't realize that, and I only recently reflected, kind of gave some feedback to my mom. It's like, bullying is a really bad thing. It was actually very real because I was small. Like, how come you and dad are small, and therefore, like, she's like, "Oh my god, you're almost, like, in your late 30s, and this is something that comes to mind." But I just want to say it is something a lot of people in the US or outside of China don't realize that at all. So, wow, this has been so fun. I mean, we've really taken it to, like, a corner of making this about, like, I don't know, coffee shop situation. But you live in New York now, Eden.
Yes.
I want you to maybe highlight maybe your lifestyle. I know it's been challenging the past couple of years, but what are some of your hotspots in New York that you recommend people to check out if they do visit? And where do work? Do you work in a
Oh
co-working
man.
space? What is it like?
So I work from home. I always joke that I have to commute so far from one end
Mhm.
of my apartment to the other because also living in New York, the apartments aren't that big.
Yeah.
So I work from home. I actually do enjoy it. I think I'm someone that's very comfortable in my working environment,
Mhm.
especially I like the familiarity. So I think conceptually I would like to go to like a WeWork every once in a while or post up
Mhm.
at a coffee shop, but um I have a really nice office setup. I'm really blessed to be able to have a separate office from my bedroom because in New York that is a bit of a luxury.
Yeah.
Um but as far as it goes for places to visit, so I love food. Food
Mhm.
is like my love language. I just love food, and actually I'm in the process of pitching a mukbang. Have you heard of mukbang, the eating live streams?
No. Oh,
It's
wait a minute. Well, you have to, like, drop in the link or something, like, people
okay.
have to find how to spell
I
that?
Mukbang. So it's mukbang is Korean. Muk is to eat, and bang is room. So mukbang is like eating room technically, as how, and
That's a
it's
restaurant?
no, it's a live streaming genre where people eat massive amounts of food. They just live stream eating massive amounts of food. It's
I'm
got
aware of that.
yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's very popular in Asia because I read an article once and then like this the psychology behind it and why it's popular in Asia and especially like Korea is because a lot of um young people live alone.
Mm,
Like there's a lot of singles in their 20s and 30s and into the 40s even. And so being able to sort of put on an eating live stream like as you're eating your meals, it's like comforting. It's like makes you feel like you're not eating all your meals by yourself.
mm,
So I really like to sort of draw inspiration from. So I'm really into like Asian culture. I'm really sort of going through like a rediscovery of like my Asian roots in the last like sort of 5 years, if I'm being honest.
oh,
Um,
I did too, believe it or not.
yeah, no,
Very
it's
real.
I
Yeah.
think it's kind of crazy. It was when you were talking about the bullying, I was sort of tangentially thinking about not bullying because of size, but bullying because of being Asian in
Mm,
Arkansas. And I was just like,
mm,
I actually kind of went through that too in my 30s, like just sort of
mhm.
processing all of that because you don't really process it when you're a kid, you know?
You block it out. It's like,
Yeah,
"Nope."
you're just trying to
Yeah.
survive out there. And so
Yeah.
like I just I really spent a lot of time in the last sort of 5 years doing a lot of reflection
Mm,
about like basically kind of like having racial identity crisis growing up and just like
yeah.
sort of the coping mechanisms throughout
Mm,
all of it and coming to a place now where I'm just like so proud of like I'm like so proud and so happy to be Asian. But my whole
yeah.
point is that I draw a lot of inspiration from Asian culture.
Right.
And I'm working on pitching this idea called Lunch with Camo, where it's just gonna
Mm,
be me eating lunch. People can drop in. I'm probably gonna have you drop in, hang out, just like you said, coffee talk, just hanging out.
Love it.
You know, we can eat food, do some food ASMR, you know, answer questions. So that's sort of like the pitch doc I'm
Whispering.
working
Yeah.
on right now.
We can use a restream too, like go live on. I'm really not kidding. Again, restream didn't pay me to do this, but I was gonna say that I'm not sure if you knew, but restream can actually live stream on more than 30 platforms, and a bunch of them are based in there's some, a lot of Asian ones, for instance, but where live streaming has been popular for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So I think it's interesting is about like Asian Americans living, here versus the lifestyle over there. I think people can see a lot of parallels, and kind of there's that run where you're talking about like how to undiscover your roots, and for you especially, moved around. Whereas for me, there's that reverse cultural shock. Sometimes you go back and like one thing that comes to mind is I just love the diversity that we get to experience in the US. I
Totally.
love the ability in New York to walk down one
Yes.
street and literally walk down a single street and discover 18 kinds of food and meet
Yes.
people from 30 countries. By the way, before I forget, you have to go to Lower East Side. So where Chinatown is,
Love
there's
Lower East Side. Yeah,
oh
that's
my
my hood.
God.
That's
Have
my
you been
spot.
to
Yeah.
Ali Mama?
I don't think I have.
Oh my God, Ali Mama, New York. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I am writing that down right now.
Oh, Ali Mama has the most incredible. It's basically all rice donuts. So donuts made out of mochi.
Yes. Oh,
Oh, and
love mochi donuts.
it's just I when I had and all the bubble teas there, mochi donuts in Ali Mama. Every time I go to New York, that is a must visit for me, for us. And I've introduced so many friends to go there. It just like, wow, life is really good. I think I was like, I just died, and this is so satisfying.
Yeah.
But I was also gonna say, like, in terms of diversity and all that, I just like something I love, and talking about our origins, our skin colors. To me, it is something so rich about the culture here. It's something I really love. Then going back to Asia, I have to say, like, it's something that could be kind of a sensitive topic. You go to like, I remember when in my 20s, I would go to meetings like I don't wear any foundations. I have nothing on right now, but you remember the days you have to figure out the foundation that actually matches your skin color. You have to go to
Yes.
Sephora. You got to pay the money. You got to find the actual color, or else it won't work. But I remember going back to Shanghai, a few years ago at least, and walking into any makeup shops, and it's crazy because any color will just work, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I never realized this. I remember, oh, I'm getting anxious again, looking at the makeup products, and everything is kind of just designed for a specific skin tone. And I
Yep.
thought that was also kind of interesting, right? Like for me, that was kind of a cultural shock. I wonder how you would feel like visiting Asia. Have you been to like Beijing, Shanghai,
So I've been
Taiwan?
to Taiwan a bunch of times. Like we would go to Taiwan every other summer growing up. The last time I've been was December of 2017. So it has been a while. I will blame the pandemic a little bit for that. But
Yeah.
I totally can relate to what you were saying. It is like skincare products.
Yeah.
Just let
Oh,
me
it's
say,
amazing. It's not even
like,
about color. Yeah.
yeah, like using American skincare products basically my entire life, it just never felt like there was anything that worked for my skin type.
Yeah.
And, now, like, I just remember going to Taiwan as an 18-year-old. It was after senior year of college. And one of my older cousins was just
Mhm.
like, we were just talking about girl stuff. Makeup comes into play. And I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know. I don't really have that much luck with any of the products in America. And she's like, yeah, it's because you're in America. And
Yeah.
though they did like American brands don't understand your skin type. And
Mhm.
she kind of like walked me through her skincare regimen. And also like now
Mhm.
e-commerce is so much Asian things are much more accessible than they were
Mm.
10 years ago.
So true.
It's like, yes, style. Thank you. Thank you so much for basically my
Yes, Kyle.
skincare routine.
We
Yes.
sponsored this.
Yes, style. I will be an affiliate for you guys. That is where I get all of my makeup products. Like, just like you said, I am
Mm,
always worried about going into Sephora. Even if I can get the color to match at Sephora, I have had that
yeah.
foundation oxidize later and it just doesn't work out, whatever. I have very, very few fails with Asian skincare products and Asian makeup because it is just so much easier to find something that works for me. And that is like something I appreciate so much about being in New York is like not just the Lower East Side,
Yeah.
Flushing, Queens.
Yeah.
All the signs are in
Wow.
Chinese. I swear, every time I go out there, I'm just like, I'm home.
It's so true. And there's that admitting there's like the separation from you and your culture and then meeting it again. There's something really to be said about, I think, our, sort of our generation before, after, and it's just really interesting to see how kind of we all come together and not trying to be more powerful. I'm so funny. I'm still looking at why am I still displaying mukbang on this? Oh god, we've our conversations moved on beyond that, but it's really interesting to talk to another Asian creator, Eden. That's why I was really look forward to this. As soon as we connected, the first minute I knew I wanted to do this and kind of amplify, celebrate each other's stories and voices. But before we conclude, because I'm going to give you back to your audience as well, is I want to mention the Hue lights, whatever that you don't have to buy it from Philip
Yes.
Hue. But please tell people who are watching right now how you created this like amazing,
Setup, lighting.
setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually have my boss, Aiden Fitzpatrick, largely to thank for sort of guiding me through my setup process.
Mhm.
Because we are a app that facilitates great video, it's really important for us to look good on video. And let me tell you, when I showed up that first day, he was like, yeah, you're going to have to upgrade your setup. Like, he was like, get you some. So I'm using, these are the Hue play bars.
Mhm.
I love them because you can change the color. I will play around with the color a little bit as I talk.
Mhm.
But I just have two set up. This is a blank wall.
Mhm.
The colors really give it like so much just like added dimension. It's really crazy. Like I never expected just lighting to make that much of a difference, but it
Mm.
does. Like even just now switching from pink to green, like I feel like I have like a totally different vibe for like
Mm.
just showing up to a call. Like I don't know, this like sort of green, we can go like a green
Yeah.
purplish.
Are they
Like
plugged into the wall? Or are they like pre-charged through
so
USB or something?
these are plugged into the wall, but I
Mm.
also have a one that charges and it holds charge for about like 2 hours without
Yeah.
being plugged in.
Yeah.
That sometimes I add as a third light, but yeah, right now I just have the two. Hue lights, a little bit of lighting can make so much difference.
Mhm.
And I was telling Faye right before we got on the call, it's all about light positioning.
Mhm.
My little cheat code is do not put that Hue bar too close to the wall. Put
Mhm.
it about like a foot and a half, 2 feet if you have the space
Mhm.
to really let the color like splash onto the wall. Otherwise, you have something that's a little more
Ooh,
like
like a
concentrated and muted.
yeah.
But like if I set it to about a foot away,
Mm.
it just like sort of gives the wall a wash of color. I just love the dimension that it adds to like my scene.
Yeah, also, by the way, the question I didn't ask, which is they need to be elevated, right, to a degree. They need to sit on something because if they're sitting
Yes.
on the floor and then,
Right.
the position might not work as well.
Yeah, so I have this, it's just sitting on like my little cube
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
And the other one is my little plant table. So it's just like a little coffee stand height table, like it
Oh, so
comes
they're
up.
different heights. That's interesting too.
Yes, different
Oh, okay.
heights. Yeah. So play around. A lot of playing around to find the perfect positioning. I um actually did have the light on the floor at first and was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And had to sort of like bring
Yeah.
in different elements of my room and rearrange it so I would have something to sit it on. But
Mm,
also,
the lights.
another big key for the lighting to show off is that you have to have really good blackout blinds because I have a huge window right here
Mhm.
and I have two towels sort of basically taped up over the window and I have two more Amazon boxes blocking out the light to be able to see this like lighting effect. Otherwise, it'd be totally washed out and you'd like barely even notice.
Right, like, look at me, what's going on is I got 2, 1 ring 2 key lights here. They're pretty dim at this point, and I just have regular blinds turned down, but you can see how bright, not just on my face, but how bright behind me looks like, and when I have one of those I don't know what this is even called, but I have one of these, Go V lights, and then if
Yeah.
I just change it, you can sort of see, but you can see the big difference between my background and Eden's background. I just want to say this because it takes a lot of experimentations to get the exact look you want, and you just can't get too frustrated. The good news is with Amazon, I guess the things that don't work out, you can kind of return them too. So,
Yeah, totally.
oh,
I totally swear by lighting and makeup tests. Like
yeah.
I always do lighting tests, even though I know that these are set up and they work. I still do a light test every single time just to make sure, like, I never know how much light is coming in through the window, if it's foggy, if it's gonna be raining, or if it's gonna be really bright.
Mhm.
So, yeah, experiment, try different things until you find what works for you. It's the fun that's fun for me. I like that part. I like the rearranging, until I get my setup perfect sort of feel.
Yeah, oh, I love it. This is so cool. And thank you so much, Eden, for your time and for all of you guys who hopped on and off during the live stream session. Watch any part of this even after the live show. Love comments, and I'm gonna repurpose this for my podcast channels as well. So Google Podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and for Spotify, I'm able to upload the video so people can actually watch or
Oh,
listen to it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a new feature, right? It's pretty new.
Yeah, since October last year, that's when they
Okay.
released it, and unfortunately, it's not really on all the other platforms just yet.
Right.
So it's basically you have to use Anchor as your hosting, and then
Gotcha.
use Spotify as the destination that actually can display video. But it's so easy. The user experience is very streamlined. Like literally one button push, you can switch between watch versus listen. And with
Nice.
that said, I would love to have you, come back. There's so much we can talk about, Eden, but oh,
Oh, is
wow,
that
there's
our
my
timer?
next
Is
meeting.
that our time being up? Yeah.
I know that's my no, there's no time up for us. It's like my next meeting. Today is a kind of a meeting heavy day for me, but
Gotcha.
yeah, I love this. Thank you so much for your time. Eden, anything else? Any call to actions? Any, any call to download Camel right
Yeah.
now.
I mostly just wanna say if anyone
Mm.
has any questions about camo, please feel free to reach out, and Faye, thank you so, so much. Like, honestly, I am new to this industry, and seeing other Asian females in the industry like you, like Stephanie Liu, like, gave gave me so much confidence because I had a lot of imposter syndrome when I was just starting out. And like
Mm.
I, knew you were in the space because of our partnerships guy, Al, Stephanie Liu, I met early on too. And it's like, I really am so grateful that you guys are in this space with me. And
Oh,
like, I mean, I know it's such a corny phrase, but it's like you guys are like really sort of paved the road that I'm walking
oh.
now. And like I'm really, really grateful for that.
Oh, amazing. Let's please keep in touch. I'm so excited about, what is to come and love to share those moments. And I know that sometimes the pandemic, even before the pandemic, we sometimes as creators can all feel alone. We're home. And I think there's a difference between being alone versus loneliness, like being
Totally.
lonely.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful to be able to connect with people from around the world like yourself. New York isn't so far,
Yeah,
but
I was
it's
about to say, next
yeah.
time you're in New York, please hit me up.
Oh,
Love to
I would
get
love to.
coffee, love to get bubble tea. Let's, I
Alibaba,
mean, I'm
yeah.
sure we can hang out for like a whole afternoon, just like talking shop or not shop. So,
For sure, for sure. This is amazing. And yeah, please go check out Ali Mama today or tomorrow. You just
oh,
yeah,
I will.
please do. So this is awesome. I'm gonna take us offline now. Bye everyone. Bye live.